Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. George Stoia as well as Bob Przybylo here. We're going to stop down for a little bit of softball, baseball talk. Kind of the first voyage into this here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. But, obviously, when you have the number one team in the country and they're on a 62-game winning streak, they get a little bit of TV time. And, Bob, 9-0 start now. You're headed out to – you're not headed out, but they're headed out. I don't know. We could probably still get that going if we wanted to head out to Palm Springs. I would chaperone that trip. I don't know how many softball games we would go to, but I would take the golf clubs with me. 9-0, though. Obviously been really impressive. I think the biggest thing for me here is just over the course of the last couple of weeks, it's become a common talking point that, they're on this 62-game winning streak. It's just unusual, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, we've now reached an official calendar year. That happened
crazy.
Monday. It's now been a full calendar year since OU softball has lost a game. And it's funny just sort of watching the first couple weekends and seeing what Patty said during the preseason is actually coming to light. They are using all six pitchers. They got S.J. Guerin involved this last weekend, and now you're seeing that at any given time, Patty's going to roll the dice with one of these ladies, and they're going to be up to the task. And so it's been very intriguing to see how some of those transfers are adapting to it. They're not having to be the workhorse. They don't have to pitch 200, 300 innings a season to try to get the job done. It's going to be situationally based and who's ready for that moment. And then while the pitching looks like it's on point, Patty's not happy with the hitting. She's not happy with the offense. I know we'll get into that a little bit more, but a little bit more sloppy than what she would have liked. And so that's the goal heading into this weekend.
In terms of the pitching staff, you obviously Kelly Maxwell's received a bunch of headlines because of the transfer from Oklahoma State. You also have Nicole May, though. It's really interesting to me if you were to get into and we're a long way from the start of regional play or anything like that, but if you were to say enter the Texas series, Texas number 2 in the country currently, who would get that start? Who would be their ace? Who would be considered the ace right now? Or is it still a work in progress?
It's a work in progress. I think it would be May, just like they started the season in that direction. But May and Maxwell are both proving to be that 1A, 1B punch that is going to be able to get them through this regular season, probably the regionals, maybe super regionals. Do they have that Jordy Ball-like presence when we get to OKC in the Women's College World Series? That's what I think we're all sort of gearing up toward. Which one of these pitchers, if any, decides this is my team, I'm going to take us home.
And it's so much when you get to the Women's College World Series, obviously, and super regionals, it's just a different atmosphere. So It's how do they respond to that? These games, they're going to get tested this weekend when they go down to Florida for the Mary Nutter, or California for the Mary Nutter Classic. But, they get Mississippi State and Wisconsin, and those will be good tests, and I'm sure some of those games will be close, but it's just a different vibe. And I look at somebody like Kirsten Deal. I thought she performed really well this past weekend. I think she maybe has the biggest upside of the group. I think Carly Keeney's come in and played really well too. She's been kind of their closer. But Kelly Maxwell and Nicole May, they're going to be the two that really lead them, I think, through the regular season.
From a defensive perspective, have we thought about Tiara Jennings over at short? I know that was one of the big storylines coming out of the media day. You were going to have to replace Grace Green.
Grace Lyons.
Or Grace Lyons. I think I got those two mixed up for the entirety of their career. But filling that void, obviously an All-American at shortstop. How have you thought defensively Oklahoma has been through the first 9?
They've been as good as they usually are.
Sure.
Maybe that first weekend, some hiccups. I think they had 3 errors. Last weekend was much better, including Jada Coleman doing what she does, making some of those great catches in center field. But I want to see Jennings get tested more. She's playing really well, but I want to see that play okay, she can do that. What Grace Lyons did on the regular, Tiara can do that too. And that's not her fault. There hasn't been too many chances to where you could really see whether or not she's got that in her. But it's working out with her at short. Second base, between Avery Hodge, with Lilio, Alina Torres. Torres is someone who brings a lot of versatility, so I'm not sure second base will be her spot. But, it's still a work in progress, and it needs to be. You don't want to have your lineup set in February.
Right.
You've still got 3 more months to go.
Who's maybe impressed you most at that second base spot? Because it's been, like you said, kind of a rotating door. I think they've started three different players now there.
I like Torres the most, but I don't know if second base would be where she needs to go in terms of fielding. I like Avery Hodge, what she brings to the table there. So I think it's going to be very, very much as sort of a mix and match and kind of see who earns the most, who's going to be that person that steps up. Because there are names that in February kind of tail off when you get to March and April, you get to conference play. So it's going to be about the consistency. I know that's a word that kind of gets used a lot, but it's absolutely true. That is how Patty will gauge this. It's not going to be, and she'll use her gut feeling. Something she talked about a lot last year. I'll look at the stats, I'll look at the matchups, but then I know these players, and I'll go with what I think is going to be best for the team.
As far as we'll work our way into the lineup here, I want to start with some of the freshmen, though. Ella Parker, Cassidy Pickering, they've made some pretty big impacts and pretty big statements here as freshmen in the early portions.
Yeah, I mean, what else could Pickering do? Hit a grand slam in her very first at-bat. Welcome to OU softball. And then Ella Parker crushes one last weekend. And I think that's got to be a relief for them. They're going to get their chances. But again, it's what Patty mentions repeatedly. If you're not at your best, we're still going to be okay. So just, find your footing, find out what type of player you're going to be for us this year, and we'll work with you the entire way, and we'll see how you get better, how it evolves, and what spot you have on this team.
I'd love how Patty Gasso talks about this team like they are some kind of middling, like mediocre franchise that's, just trying to get back over 500 when they're in reality on a 62-game winning streak.
It's unbelievable. And I think that the two freshmen that you mentioned, Ella Parker and Cassidy Pickering, they've been super impressive. But you look at how many seniors in that lineup, and it's funny, you hear the names of Jada Coleman, Tiara Jennings, Kinsey Hansen. Those are the, Brito. Those are the four that you really think of as their big home run hitters. But who's really impressed me is Riley Boone. And I not to say Riley Boone is ever forgotten about, because she's had her moments, but she's not going to be your big home run hitter. Nope. But she has come up clutch already this season. You think of the hit against Washington. She's had I think a couple triples already this year. She's been spectacular at the plate, and to have someone like her basically hitting at the end of the lineup, it's pretty remarkable. So she's been kind of, to me, the glue so far for this offense.
Well, it's always been a credit to her to be in the 9 hole and not taking personally. Yeah. I'm setting the table for Jada, TRA, and they're going to bring me home. And and Boone is just one of the fastest players I've ever seen in person. And so it's just a joy to get to watch her do what she does. That drag bunt, I don't know if there's anyone that does it better.
JT Gasso was talking about that on the radio program this week, just as far as from a execution standpoint, you couldn't draw it up any better on the bunt there. It is, obviously there's a ton of returning, starters on this team. They brought everybody back, it seemed like, outside of a couple. You talk about Kinsey Hansen. We have her on the radio program as well. It's she's maybe one of the best talkers in Norman, any sport. They certainly carried themselves like a 3-time national champion, trying to go for 4. Who of the returning starters has been most impressive for maybe somebody that hasn't been able to watch any of the 9 games?
Gotta say Brito.
Yeah.
I mean, Jada Coleman had a great second weekend, but Alyssa Brito has brought it the entire way. She's leading the team with 4 homers, and the defense that she's playing, the leadership that she brings, the energy that she brings. Although you could almost copy and paste that with a lot of them.
Sure.
Leadership, energy, they're never at fault or have a lack of that going into an event. And they're, what's good to see is that even right off the bat, those leaders are being who they need to be and showing the younger girls this is how we play.
5 games coming up at the Mary Nutter in Cathedral City, California. Mississippi State, Wisconsin on Friday, San Diego State on Saturday, and then another doubleheader before they get out of there on Sunday. Seattle and Loyola Marymount. There you go. Marymount. Got it. I don't know why I said it like that. Interesting. Weird. But there is a big home opener on the horizon next Friday. It's George and I drove by yesterday just to kind of get a little bit of a peek and see inside of Love's Field. But I think the question that everybody wants to know right now, Bob, is this damn thing going to be ready by the time they start the home schedule come next Friday?
It's what Patty's wondering too. She
Yeah.
kind of knocked on wood when we talked to her Tuesday, but functional deadline, it's got to be ready. March 1st, we'll see what it actually looks like, but that's going to be a very special scene. We heard it was announced that it's a sellout.
Sure.
And I mean, so you think about the parking at Marita Hines when it's like 3 times less the capacity. I'm the chaos that area of Norman is going to be next Friday.
They still have like so much to do outside of the stadium,
like the landscaping, everything around it.
Like there's only
it looks great. Like we drove by yesterday with the thing out front in front of like the main entrance with the University of Oklahoma. The brick looks great.
I think there's only like one way in and one way out right now, so it's gonna be kind of a mess.
Do they play the weekend of the medieval fair in Norman?
We absolutely need
that
to look
might
at
that might be a natural disaster over there in terms of parking. What is the parking situation? Like, are they going to pave something?
I would
over there?
assume L&C.
It's going to be Lloyd Noble from what I've been
I guess
told.
it's not that far.
And then you just walk.
You just walk across the street.
But there's a lot of, you got to go through Constitution. Like, it's not as short. Nothing like the baseball walk.
No, they need they're going to have to, like, I'm sure, set up some type of like walking alley or something, or get police over there to kind of navigate that. So
we looked at tickets too. The secondary
for
market.
the opener, it's like you're talking about
$100.
Outfield upper deck of whatever that is. It's like $300.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's insane. It's
gonna
going to
be
be cool though. It's going to be really cool. I think that we're all three going to try to be over there next Friday for the Oklahoma Loves Field home opener against Miami of Ohio. Correct?
Yep,
You got it.
Apologies to
who
them.
lead the country in home runs hit this year. They've not played anybody good.
So that's going to be. You've been talking up the
but
Red Hawks.
They lead the country in home runs. 24 home runs hit this year in 7 games. Pretty impressive.
Upset alert.
Upset alert.
Interesting. All right. Well, it's
We're
going to
already
be.
canceled.
I'm giving Patty bulletin board
material.
Yeah,
that'd
she
be great
needs
if we were talking to him in Oklahoma City come middle of June, and they're like, "Well, this asshole George Stoia doubted us from the start." That'd be like another level of what Georgia did after the national championship game 2 years ago.
Everyone doubted us.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a lot of people doubting the 3-time national champion on a 62-game winning streak. As far as the baseball side of things, Oklahoma now 2-2. They left Arlington, or I guess truly left the DFW area with a 2-2 record, 2-1 record after the Shriners Children's over the course of the weekend. A loss on Friday to Oregon. They come back and get the 5-1 win in 10 innings against Tennessee. Come back and score 2 in the 7th and 2 in the 9th against Nebraska to win 7-6. Jackson Willits with a walk-off winner there, and then stayed down in the DFW area. Actually practiced at UT Arlington on Monday, and then they lose on Tuesday night to a really good Dallas Baptist team, 11-7. Came back, tied it up, had a little bit of power. Michael Snyder hit a home run. Jackson Nicholas hit a home run. Give up a grand slam at the bottom of the 7th.
Yeah.
A little bit of a gut punch. Not the worst thing in the entire world. Dallas Baptist is going to be there when it's all said and done. Hefner's done just an incredible job with that program. Thank you to Ben Zobrist as well. I didn't realize that Ben Zobrist is like related to Hefner.
I did not know that.
Toby put that out there on the radio broadcast on Tuesday night. I think it's his. He must be married to like Hefner's sister, maybe, or like former sister. I don't know if she was the one that was cheating around on him. Whatever. Bygones be bygones. Thank you for the World Series.
It seems like Eddie, with the baseball team, the biggest storyline with them is their pitching depth. Like, I know they give up the grand slam the other night to Dallas Baptist, but
100%.
The pitching depth this year compared to last year seems to be much improved.
100%. And I think that, when you talked, when we went over to Media Day just 2 weeks ago, that's what everybody was talking about. You talked to Easton Carmichael, the catcher, and he's talking about the depth. You talk to Will Karsten or Carter Campbell or whoever. There's some guys that can throw, and they can throw really hard. And I think that was one of the things that we hit on in one of the preseason notebooks, just in terms of they went out, they wanted to get guys with velocity. And I think that you saw that. Malachi Witherspoon, Kyson Witherspoon, those guys they were phenomenal in their Oklahoma debuts. Brendan Davis made the start against Oregon. Brendan Girton then made the start against Tennessee. They were both excellent. And then you got what James Hitt gave you a year ago. It's going to be really interesting, though, to see how they go through this first, I would probably say, month and figure out, okay, this guy's going to be dependable in, the back end of a game. I think that there's a thought that maybe Kyson Witherspoon will end up being a midweek starter. They started Grant Stevens against Dallas Baptist, and when you talk about velocity and everything that they brought into the program, he's the exact opposite. A left-hander with a bunch of, not the best fastball in the entire world, but a bunch of just different pitches. And I think that you could match up with him. It seemed like left-handed hitters had a big problem with him. Maybe you put him in the bullpen, and maybe he matches up against teams that are left-handed heavy. So all in all, it was fantastic. He struck out 41 batters throughout the weekend from the pitching staff. Ryan Lambert was really good, and he's a hard-throwing guy that they brought in from Missouri State that he didn't even throw a whole lot of fastballs. In fact, I think Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball noted that he threw like one fastball against Tennessee. Now, obvious, Tennessee's probably one of the best offenses in the country, and they probably feast on fastballs. But at the same time, he came in, pitched inning in 2/3 against Tennessee. Him and Witherspoon kind of patchworked everything and got through the lineup and gave Oklahoma a chance. And, credit all 6 of the guys, or all 5 of the guys that came in from the bullpen on Sunday in just keeping that game close enough to be able to score, 2 in the 7th and 2 in the 9th to win the game.
It seems like the bats too, maybe it was a little bit of a slow start, but they come alive throughout the game. I mean, Jackson Willits, the freshman, he hit the game winner, the walk-off against Nebraska. He was really good. Michael Snyder's really seeing the ball well, it seems. I mean, Jackson Nicholas, he had 2 home runs the other night against
2 home runs against Dallas Baptist.
The offense is going to come.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the most interesting part about the lineup is you've done this without Anthony McKenzie. They have been some quiet there's been some quiet games offensively. You saw him score 7 on Tuesday night, hit a couple more home runs. That was good to see. Bryce Madron kind of opened those floodgates in the 7th inning on Sunday to cut that lead in half. But at the same time, like Jackson Willits, he has the one big hit against Nebraska. He's also 1 for 14.
Yeah.
But he's had some really good at-bats as a freshman. Now, Anthony McKenzie coming back, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the lineup. If Willits continues to struggle at short, McKenzie can play short. Michael Snyder and Rocco Garza Gongora have kind of played the corner bases. Michael Snyder was thought to be a big bat that they brought in from Washington that was going to play first base. But all of a sudden, he's playing third base in the first 4 games, and I think he's done a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
So it's a good problem to have a lot of guys. I guess it's a bad problem, though, that you have to figure out how you're going to mix and match all these guys moving forward. I know that you want to get Carter Frederick more at bats, so that means Carmichael's not going to be able to DH. Carmichael struggled a little bit with pass balls on Friday.
Balls, yep.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how they work this out. I think most importantly for the baseball team is when you look up the guys that have played well or hit the ball well are all guys that you are 100% expecting to be dudes on this team that can carry you into a regional or a super regional or Omaha. So like to come out and say that like Easton Carmichael's knocked the cover out of the ball. He's been bad defensively, but he's knocked the cover off the ball. John Spikerman looks a lot more like John Spikerman than he did, last year. And not to say that he had a bad year. I think he hit 275, but he had some big hits. And anything from Jackson Nicholas, just from an offensive standpoint, I'm not going to say it's an added bonus because that's what he does. Right. But just to see a little bit more pop than he had last year. Like I plan on talking to Skip on Thursday just in terms of getting those guys going, and especially for Jackson with the way that the season ended last year, which was just a nightmare.
What is the number one storyline you're looking forward to this weekend?
Probably continuation. I do want to see them be able to knock some runs in. That hasn't necessarily been a problem because they haven't really had a whole lot of base runners, especially when you're talking about the Tennessee and Nebraska game. But just a continuation of what they've done. And I think that when you look at what they are pitching-wise, with that 4th game, because you're playing a doubleheader this weekend, it's going to be interesting to me to see who that 4th starter is. Obviously, you're going to get Brendan Davis, Brendan Girton, and James Hitt in some form or fashion. I wouldn't think that they delve from what they were earlier, but it'll just be interesting to see how they kind of do that. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyson Witherspoon ends up making the start, or maybe you throw Jacob Golston, considering that he only threw 4 pitches on Tuesday night, a less than debut, but I think that it's pretty obvious that he's going to be a really good player in time.
Yeah, so they got Wright State at home this weekend,
Wright
and then
State,
is it the Las Vegas?
Yeah,
tournament?
then they're headed to Las Vegas for a tournament.
What
I
do they
believe
got? Is it
it's
Pitt, Cal, and
Ohio State, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So it probably better weather than they'll get here in Norman.
Yeah.
But I do think the weather is supposed to be really nice over the course of the weekend. So fingers crossed it's going to be good weather for the opening of Love's Field next week.
It's supposed to be. It is. It's supposed to be mid 60s. So, yep.
we've been down this road before. We've been down this road before, Oklahoma meteorologists. I don't know what to expect. So there it is. That's talking a little baseball, talking a little softball. Obviously, plenty of coverage to come here throughout the next couple months, but most certainly over the next couple days as Oklahoma comes back, opens against Wright State at L. Dale Mitchell, and then the Oklahoma softball team, 62-game winning streak, headed out to Cathedral City to take on the Mary Nutter Classic. So, boys, appreciate it.
Yep.
Hope to do
Enjoyed
this probably once a week. We'll make this a little bit of a thing. We'll recap a bunch of softball, baseball games, stick sports, if you will. Maybe we'll even I'll just turn these guys' mics off and we'll just talk golf the entire time. So there it is. For Bob, for George, I'm Eddie. We'll see you right back here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel.